Good afternoon. My name is Nathan Sorensen. I am the Strategic IT Procurement Officer for the Midwestern Higher Education Compact. Thank you for joining us today to learn more about the Midwestern Higher Education Compact and the Compact's competitively public solicitation for higher education information technology solutions for complex hybrid administrative systems. If you have any questions, please submit them using the chat feature. We will try to answer as many as we can. You will have a formal opportunity to ask questions in writing. Before we get started into the details of the request for proposal, I want to briefly introduce you to our organization, the Midwestern Higher Education Compact, and its contracting authority, the technology's cost savings initiatives, eligible organizations, contract benefits, and our request for proposals. To help you understand our contracting authority and why the Compact is involved with these technology contracts, it's best to have a better understanding about our organization. We are an interstate compact charged with advancing higher education through interstate cooperation and resource sharing. The Midwestern Higher Education Compact is one of 4 regional compacts in the United States, with each having their own niche for addressing issues and advocating for education. Often referred to as MHEC, our niche was rooted in cost savings programs created by and supported by stakeholders from the 12 Midwestern states. The Compact is governed by a 60-member board called the Commission, made up of governor designees, legislative, and higher education leaders. The Compact is a resource for student access, essentially trying to help students get into and matriculate through college, as well as a source in policy, where we attempt to help decision makers, governors, legislators, and higher education leaders in our member states make more informed decisions and provide them with information. As the map shows, there are 3 states not covered by any of the compacts: New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. What makes the compact unique to the education community is its broad contracting authority created in each of its member states. The compact is not a group purchasing organization. The compact is a means for stakeholders in the 12 Midwestern states to collaborate on identifying regional issues and committing resources to leverage a solution through the compact's statutory authority. We are very selective in the type of contracts that we pursue. Our programs range from technology solutions to property and student health insurance, out-of-state tuition reciprocity, and policy research. We try to identify those areas that we can bring value in, and as a result will be something that an individual institution may not be able to replicate on its own. But because we are working together across state lines, regionally, and now nationally, we can bring value that wouldn't have otherwise been there. Now, you may be asking yourself, what is a compact? It is really a contract amongst the states. This legislation that was passed in each state makes us an instrumentality of state government in the 12 member states. Similarly, the other compacts have been statutorily created. Think of us as the State Department of Administration for Minnesota, for example, but also for Wisconsin, Illinois, and so on. The compact contracting authority sits in between the state and the federal government. So how do we come about these initiatives? MHEC's technology cost savings initiatives are guided by a committee of over 40 Midwestern CIOs, technical experts, and IT procurement professionals for the purpose of furthering education opportunities and services in the region. These subject matter experts have consistently collaborated to identify, discuss, and commit resources to addressing common IT issues facing higher education. The current cost savings initiatives include contracts for hardware, software, and services. Now for some resources. Our MHEC Tech website features a couple of easy ways you can learn more about the Technologies Committee and the initiatives they have pursued. It's also important to note that we insert recent news about contracts, RFPs, as well as upcoming regional and national events. Please also visit the section on getting the most value from MEC contracts to receive some valuable tips on how entities are purchasing products and services using these contract vehicles. For a list of our current contracts, go up to the top right of the screen and select the big green Contracts button. Our current portfolio, like I mentioned, consists of hardware, software, and services. While all of our contracts are negotiated at the minimum on behalf of higher education, when the opportunity presents itself, the compact negotiates to extend the contracts to K-12, to municipalities, and state government. There's also an opportunity to expand the contracts to the other regional compacts. And here's a list by region, the states in each of the compacts. Our MEC technology cost-saving program has many benefits. Primarily, they are competitively sourced solution-based contracts. These open solicitations of requests for proposals will follow public procurement best practices for end-to-end solution providers. One contract for a total solution with one purchase order. They also include pre-negotiated terms and conditions with options to amend to meet the institution's needs by defining the scope of the offering, covering public entities' procurement requirements, the business terms of the transaction, software licensing, and an option to negotiate services. Now, I would like to introduce to you Ruth Ginsburg, who is our Vice Chair of our Technologies Committee, to share with you the Higher Education Information Technology Solutions philosophy and approach for this request for proposal. Ruth, would you please briefly introduce yourself to the audience and share with them the HEITS philosophy?
So good morning or good afternoon. Have you unmuted me so you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So we are looking at a kind of RFP solicitation that is continuous with those kinds of RFPs that we have done before, but it differs in some ways. And some of the ways that it differs are what I want to talk about a little bit today. An RFP for a higher education information technology solution is designed to fully address a particular need. So rather than saying we want X, Y, and Z, what we're saying is we want a solution to this need. We want something that addresses this need. And what we want from our proposers is a flexible structure so that they can meet the need in whatever institution is looking to fill it. We have been listening to you. We have been listening to our institutions that are purchasing, and one of the things that we have heard very loudly and clearly is that no longer does it really work to have to buy hardware from here, software from there, services from over here, and maybe a cloud provider over there, and then somehow put those all together. What we have heard is that you as vendors are selling integrated complex solutions, and our institutions are buying integrated complex solutions. So this RFP is intended to provide a vehicle for those kinds of solutions. It is solutions oriented rather than widget and gadget or service oriented. this can be adjusted where appropriate to meet the specific implementation criteria of our eligible organizations, and it's designed to grow as the organizational needs in the solution space grow. And in particular, what we're looking at is we're trying to address the new agile development process and the need for our organizations to be agile, so that as the solution space expands, as the organization that is buying the solution expands, and as the vendor's offerings expand, this solution can also be expanded as long as it stays within the scope of what we're looking for. So what we're doing is we have listened to you, we have listened to our institutions, we have heard that they need to buy on contracts that are more flexible and more all-encompassing than what we've done in the past, and that's what we're doing. The scope of this solicitation, of this particular HEITS solicitation, is to look for solution providers for one of three possible higher education challenges. The three possible higher education challenges that we're looking to address are facilitating, tracking, planning, predicting, and reporting on the educational status and educational progress of applicants, students, and graduates. Somebody once said, why don't you just call it a student information system? The reason we're not just calling it a student information system is because we realize that the methods undertaken of doing these things, while they should fit together in a cohesive and coherent package, are not necessarily the same thing that would have been identified as a student information system 5 or 10 or 15 years ago. But it is that facilitating, tracking, planning, predicting, and reporting on the educational status and educational progress of applicants, students, and graduates is one of the needs. The second of the needs is facilitating, tracking, planning, predicting, and reporting on the financial operations of the institution or system. You will recognize this as something that, previously we may have said, well, we're buying a financial system. But as you can see, what we're looking for is the solution, not the object. So we're looking for something that will solve the issues involved in facilitating, tracking, planning, predicting, and reporting on the financial operations of the institution or system. And the reason we say or system is because some of our eligible purchasers are large systems that involve multiple campuses or multiple institutions. And the third one is facilitating, tracking, planning, predicting, and reporting on all the human resource functions of the institution or system. Obviously, you know what that is. We might have previously called it a human resources system. But again, what we're looking for is solutions. And we want to engage the creativity of our vendors, of you, to put together coherent packages. We know that you spend your organization's time and money developing approaches to these things. We want to see those approaches, and we want to see those approaches that are actually going to provide solutions to our eligible institutions, not just provide products to our eligible institutions. I think if there is any one take-home point that I want to make about this, it's that our objective is to find solutions. Our objective is to ask for solutions. Our objective is to find solutions. And our objective is to make available to our eligible institutions comprehensive solutions, not just widgets and gadgets. And so, as pointed out in the RFP, while you certainly may include widgets and gadgets and hardware and software and other pieces that go together to make up a solution in your proposed solutions, we are not substituting this for our widget and gadget contracts, In other words, we will still do contracts for desktop computers. We may still do RFPs for other kinds of hardware or other kinds of software. And the higher education information technology solution contracts that result from this RFP are not intended for selling widgets and gadgets alone to our eligible institutions. There will be other contracts for those, but rather are intended as a vehicle for them to purchase comprehensive solutions for these specific 3 problems that I outlined. Nathan, do you have anything else you want to say, or should I keep going or stop now?
You're doing a great job, Ruth, giving them background. You do have a couple more minutes, Ruth, if you have some closing thoughts for our audience.
Well, I'll take questions if anybody has questions.
Okay, we do have one question. How did you select the vendors who received the RFP info?
Nathan?
Yes, I can answer that. So we do a scan of the environment and identify potential vendors that may meet the requirements. We also do a public notification in the Minnesota State Register. And of course, we publish on our website all the supporting documents to this RFP. So it's a competitively open solicitation. We do inform a seed list with a scan of the environment, and we also do a notification in the Minnesota State Register. If anyone else has a question, you can use the chat feature. We got another question. What types of opportunities will exist for the awarded vendors to gain increased visibility or access to the participating institutions?
Great question. Nathan, do you want to take that, or should I?
Well, Ruth, it would be great if you could share kind of an institutional perspective on how MEC meets some of the needs.
So I think what your question is how are institutions going to know that they can now purchase your wonderful solution once we have awarded you a contract? And the answer is there needs to be a partnership between you and MEC, and I think that's one of the things that you are asked to speak about in the proposal that you send us, is how is this going to be marketed to institutions? We are not a marketing organization, and we are not going to market your solution for you. But once we do have a contract vehicle, what it means is that when an institution decides that it wants to purchase the solution that is on a MEC contract, it can then directly use that MEC contract to purchase that solution rather than now having to go through a number of other paperwork or other bureaucratic processes that may exist in that state or in their environment in order to select a solution. The solution has been selected already, and since the Midwestern Higher Education Compact is an instrumentality of state government for the states of the Midwestern Higher Education Compact states, it can make an award to a vendor, and in most states, those institutions, including state institutions, can now use that contract directly to make a purchase. Nathan, want to add to that?
Yeah, no, that was very well put, Ruth. So we're not a group purchasing organization. We're not a co-op buying group. We're acting as a public entity on behalf of the member states, leading the public, open, competitively sourced solicitation and making the award on behalf of the states.
While we're waiting to see if there are any additional questions, one other thing that I did want to emphasize, which I forgot to emphasize previously, is that the name of this type of solicitation that we're doing is a Higher Education Information Technology Solution, or we call them HEITS, And one of the particular things that we will be looking at in assessing the proposals that you propose is how well it actually fits in a higher education environment. So what we'll be looking for is solutions that are particularly crafted and architected to work in a higher education environment like the ones that we laid out in the various places in this RFP. In particular, not just in some generic environment that looks like a corporation, because higher education is different from most corporations. It looks different, it has different needs, and so we are looking for a fit with higher education in particular. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. We have a couple more questions. Do you plan to award multiple solution providers each a contract, or are you making one award to one solution provider? We do have language in the RFP that there may be one or more solution providers recommended. We do have the potential of not just being regional in the 12 Midwestern states, but also our other regional compacts. We have considered multiple awards in the past, and this would be one type of solution the committee would evaluate multiple awards.
If I can add on to that, one of the things that we're looking at is being able to, if we do make multiple awards, we will be looking at these with an eye toward what types of institutions we would be recommending them for. So for example, there may be one award made in a particular category that would work just really well for small and medium-sized institutions, but that we would not particularly recommend for a statewide system, for example. And for those types of institutions that one that we award seems to be particularly well suited, we are looking at potentially noting that in the award so that we don't just leave our institutions kind of flailing around going, well, how do I know if this is going to work for an institution of my size? We hope to provide some of that kind of guidance in addition to the award should we make multiple awards.
Ruth, we have another question kind of on the same topic. Does a single vendor need to meet all three challenges in order to respond to the RFP? Or can a vendor meet less than the three challenges in order to respond?
And the answer to that is definitely yes, a vendor can meet less than the three challenges, and indeed even for less than every possible size institution in order to respond. We hope that part of the creativity that we'll be engaging on the parts of vendors is to invite niche vendors to propose that may only have a solution in one of those three areas, and that may work best for one of the different types or sizes of institutions or systems. And we would like to invite those types of proposals. You don't have to be everything to everybody in order to propose.
Thank you, Ruth. We have another question. What is the end goal of this? Purchase or just provide support state institutions with pricing break based on economies of scale?
Not sure I understand. I mean, we certainly would like, so assuming that you are awarded, if your proposal is awarded by MHEC, a contract, we certainly would hope to be able to negotiate economies of scale, including the fact that we will be saving you considerable money, we believe, in your not having to do a custom contract terms and conditions for every single institution to whom you sell your solution, and we might even save you some sales calls as well if you have a well-articulated solution that's readily available with good terms and conditions spelled out by the contract that we engage in. On the other hand, we, the Midwestern Higher Education Compact, are not buying anything. We are creating vehicles for our member institutions to purchase from. Does that help?
Yes. Thank you, Ruth. We'll give a minute if anybody else has any other questions. Use the chat feature, please. Okay, we have another question. Once a contract is awarded, is a vendor able to proactively reach out to the MEC institutions to market a potential new MEC agreement?
Absolutely. We hope you do.
Okay, we have a couple more, Ruth. Is the opportunity available for these three solutions quantified across the member institutions? In other words, how many institutions are looking to purchase any of these three solutions?
Well, I don't have the data analytics. I don't know if Nathan does or not. Certainly we know from our institutional meetings, we have the MEC Technologies Committee meets annually to gather information from member institutions, and certainly we know from those that there's sort of a new thing going on right now. You've probably seen it too in your sales calls, which is that many institutions have older systems at this point that were acquired a long time ago, and they're looking at what they need to do in order to update, upgrade, and refresh that technology to make it more agile. And so a lot of them are looking at these legacy systems and beginning to wonder how long this is going to work for them, and they are looking at new solutions. We know that they're looking at new comprehensive solutions. Whether they actually decide to purchase at this point, I don't know. And I'm sure somebody has some data on that, but I'm not the person that does.
I'll add on to that. An important thing to remember is that the states are the member of the compact, and the entities that are eligible to utilize the contract are within those states. So for example, the state of Minnesota is a member of the compact. The University of Minnesota or McAllister College would be eligible to utilize the MEC contracts because they are operating and located within a member state, such as Minnesota. I have one more question. In order to address the challenges listed, must the provider offer combined software, services, hardware to provide a full solution?
And I will answer that. No, what you need to offer is whatever it is that you provide, whatever it is that you offer in order to make that solution work. If you can make the solution work with fairy dust, then just offer fairy dust. We assume that you'll need some combination of hardware, software, services, cloud services, something. We assume that most of these complex administrative systems include multiple different kinds of widgets, gadgets, and licenses in order to make them work. We are hoping that what you will do is pull together a comprehensive solution. We don't expect you, for example, if you are providing, let's say you are a provider of some sort of cloud service. We don't expect you to provide desktops along with that in order to access the cloud from every desktop, but kind of use some common sense. If you need some particular hardware, software, access licenses, multi-factor authentication, pull together a package of what your customer is going to need and make it easy for your customer to get it. That's what we expect.
Well, we appreciate the questions today. You will have another opportunity to submit in writing formal questions that the committee will answer. So we do have the RFP published on MEC's website. You can find it under news, or do a Google search for MEC RFPs. This is our official notification of any changes to the RFP process. We do have key events and dates. The formal issuance of the RFP occurred last Monday. Today we have our pre-proposal conference. The questions, the written questions, are due on Friday, on September 2nd. So please submit those questions when you can. The committee will need some time to answer those questions. And proposals are due on October 6th. The committee will then do the initial evaluation, identify vendors of interest. They may ask for some clarification questions. And ultimately, in November, they'll be looking to identify finalists to invite for a respondents conference at the Big Ten headquarters in Rosemont, Illinois. And those finalists will have an opportunity to share with the committee and create a dialogue around the proposal, any clarification questions. We are hoping to make a decision and bring a recommendation to our full committee in March of next year. Any inquiries about the RFP should be directed to myself, Nathan Sorensen. I can answer questions regarding MEC and how we operate and some of the initiatives that we've had in the past. Questions specific to the RFP would have to be written. You'll have one opportunity on September 2nd where the committee can address any of your questions. We'd also like you to learn more about us. Here's how you can reach out to us on our social media, our supporting websites. And I do want to thank everyone for joining us today. And we look forward to getting your proposals and any questions that you have. Thank you very much for attending, and have a great rest of your week.